So glad you're starting your morning with us here on Up with KREM. I'm Tim Pham.
And I'm Channing Curtis. Well, while everyone is starting off their morning, let's get right to the weather with meteorologist Thomas Patrick. Because Thomas, people have to know, do they need a jacket today? Maybe like a light sweater? Or
both.
Really just, we don't know what to do.
Is there such a thing as a morning jacket?
Oh, I'm sure.
Sure.
Yeah, well, let's go with that, because in these morning hours, it's certainly still cool out there. It is October after all. It is that time of year that we've often had to have our winter jackets at this point of the year, but our afternoons tend to be very, very warm in the sunshine, at least for this year it is. 48 degrees right now, just a couple minutes to sunrise. I'm just curious to see if that moon icon will live update into a sign icon. And yes, it did it. As I was saying it, went from moon to the sun. I was literally stalling just to see if that would happen. That's the first time I've ever seen that happen on air. That is pretty cool. So aside from getting that excited about sunrise, it is a little bit cool out there. We are now down to 32 degrees in Deer Park. So there probably is some areas with a bit of frost or some patchy frost on the ground from that area and northward through northern and northeastern Washington, especially nestled in between some of those mountains and valleys. Yeah, it's a little bit cool up towards our north, but we're still at 48 in Spokane and 49 in Coeur d'Alene. A decently mild morning out there, comparatively speaking, and a lot of sunshine now overhead that we are at sunrise. And that's the way it's going to stay today. A lot of sunshine all day long. Temperatures once again in the mid 70s, but this time around, that's close to record highs for today. And I'll show you how close we are to those records in just a couple minutes.
Overnight, we learned private security is now patrolling the perimeter of the homeless encampment off of I-90. Now, the state told us that the security will work with staff at the encampment to control access into every entry gate. In the meantime, WSDOT says that more security will arrive in the next few days. Now, to be clear, the security that's been hired is not law enforcement. They're contracted by Security Services Northwest, which is a part of the state's right-of-way safety initiative to address homeless camps on state roadways and property. Now, this is also a part of the state's four-step plan to clear the encampment. The next step is to help transition people into appropriate shelter and housing. Now, also in effect this morning are a new set of rules for everyone who lives at the encampment. Created by Jules Helping Hands and WSDOT, the rules ban predatory behavior and state that people must abide by the good neighbor policy. This includes things like following a curfew and quiet hours, as well as respecting their neighborhood. We have also learned that since August, about 180 people have moved away from the encampment. That current population is now estimated to be about 443 people.
This morning, our KREM 2 investigation continues into reports of suspected fraud within the Guardians Foundation involving up to $1 million. Nicole Hernandez learned more about the foundation's history and the city of Spokane's investigation. Good morning, Nicole. You went in depth to find out who the Guardians Foundation is and what they operate right now. Good morning.
Good morning, Tim. So the Guardians Foundation is the organization under investigation as of right now, and they also are the foundation that runs the Trent Avenue shelter that's right behind me here. We were able to confirm with the Spokane Police Department that they do have an open investigation into the Guardians Foundation right now. SPD has a detective assigned to the case looking into potential theft and embezzlement from within the organization. We also know the city started the internal audit Mayor Nadine Woodward had asked for. That's because the city has given the Guardians Foundation millions of dollars to run shelters here in Spokane. We also learned more about the Guardians' history. CEO Mike Shaw made Guardians a tax-exempt nonprofit back in 2011. That tax-exempt status is important. It comes up later, so keep it in mind. Moving on to May 2020, though, Guardians took over the Cannon Street Center in Spokane. In September 2021, the city gave the foundation almost $2 million to run Cannon Street Shelter year-round. Then in August of this year, the city gave them another $2.4 million to run the new shelter on Trent Avenue. But when we looked into the nonprofit status with the Washington Secretary of State's office, their business status says delinquent. We also looked at a website that tracks nonprofits. That says the Guardians Foundation did not file the necessary tax forms 3 years in a row, meaning they are not tax exempt anymore. Still, the Guardians Foundation is running 2 shelters here in the Spokane area. We, of course, still have a lot of questions that we are not getting answered right now. Both the city and the Guardians Foundation will not tell us who that former employee is or how much they stole from the Guardians Foundation. What we do know, though, is there will be a financial audit that will be finished by the end of this month. In Spokane, Nicole Hernandez, KREM 2 News.
Happening today, there is another open house to talk about the future South Hill Dog Park. One of the potential locations is the Hazels Creek Conservation Facility. We visited the area earlier this week and saw many signs advertising the open houses, but also signs opposing potential dog parks. KREM 2 spoke with a dog owner who visits Hazels Creek often, and she says it is safe and quiet, but thinks that would change if a dog park came to the area.
I'm like, no, and I don't like to go to evening meetings, but I think I'm going to go to the one on the 12th. She used to go to the dog park, and it was dangerous, and she got sick from it, and I'm totally against. People don't watch their dogs, and it just kind of, I think it would just ruin our neighborhood.
The Southgate Neighborhood Council will host tonight's meeting. It will be at the Talbot Event Center starting at 7 p.m. If you can't make tonight's meeting, there is another one happening next Tuesday.
The time is now 7:07. Let's take a look at your morning rush. More news in less time. The trial for an 18-year-old accused of rape is expected to begin next month after he pleaded not guilty in court. Ethan Jake is accused of assaulting a 51-year-old woman while she was out walking her dog near First and Division in downtown Spokane earlier this month. Jake pleaded not guilty in court to rape charges. His bail has been set at $100,000. Well, new aerial video this morning shows the aftermath of the crash that killed two Clarkston teenagers. 18-year-old Abriana Hoffman and 18-year-old Maggie Ogden were both students at Grand Canyon University. Investigators say that a driver going the wrong way on I-17 outside of Phoenix caused the crash. However, police are still investigating exactly what happened. In the meantime, GoFundMes have been created for both of the victims. You can find more information on them both on our website, KREM.com. Today, the Idaho Department of Labor is hosting a job fair in Post Falls. 65 employers are looking to fill over 300 open positions. These positions range from machine operators to cooks to chemists. The job fair is free, and job seekers should bring their resume and be prepared to be interviewed. Now, today's job fair runs from 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. at Real Life Ministries in Post Falls. And that's a look at your morning rush.